What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 114. Big tech runs on gas lighting. Yes, and we're going to be going over a lot of things with technology and a lot of the ways that they are gaslighting the community and government and law enforcement and whatnot in order to manipulate people and to question the reality of the way things are going in order to accept this stuff. So yeah, welcome in. This is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. If this is your first time here, glad to have you. And we do things a little bit different around here. We take a look at what's going on in these last days. We're called to be watchmen. We're called to pay attention to what's going on. And so we look at this stuff, what's going on in current events and history and everything like that, and how it pertains to the last days. We try and view it from the perspective of no bias, no narrative, and just try and map things out using scripture, logic, and critical thinking. I know, right? Logic and critical thinking. A little bit of common sense thrown in there. 3 things that this world desperately needs. Anyways, welcome in. Glad to have you here. The usual veterans, well, you know how it goes. And yeah, you know how it goes. So, but yeah, big tech runs on gaslighting. Plenty of things to discuss. Tonight, like I said, this is going to be definitely more of a tech focused episode, and plenty of things going on. So first things first, we got, I'm sure most of you are aware, wildfire issues, not only here in the United States. There's a ton of stuff going on in the United States, but it's happening all over the world. It is wildfire season. And a lot of wildfires going on, but we got ourselves another issue with all of that, and it has to do with the prediction markets, Kalshi and Polymarket, that are allowing people to bet on wildfires and wildfire specifics, like when will it be contained? Will it enter this neighborhood? Will a wildfire enter this territory? And if you're not catching on to that, there's a good chance that people could be placing bets on these wildfires and then going out and starting them. And so that's definitely an issue that is happening right now. Again, keep in mind, prediction market, we know where that comes from. If not, we'll go over that a little bit later. We also got the Florida Wildlife Agency is using police database in order to track and surveil anybody who opposes the things that they're doing. So again, Florida continues to swirl into the dystopian darkness. Florida used to be one of the top 3 states left in the country, and they have become one of the worst when it comes to what's going on with the globalist dystopian. But no surprise. No surprise at all. Speaking of dystopian, we got New Orleans is deploying AI voice systems in order to answer 911 calls. And that goes a little bit deeper with the company that is taking that over. We'll talk about that. We also got some stuff when it comes to flock and ALPRs or ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. We got cops are basically being told not to mention their usage of ALPRs or flock or Axon or anything like that to the people that they are pulling over or in their police reports. So gaslighting there, but we also got more gaslighting where Flock has released a guide that shows and teaches cops how to promote technology to not only city councils in order to sign contracts, but to citizens in order to calm them down with their opposition to big tech surveillance. So yeah, we got that. We also got another issue with Flock almost killing somebody who was not supposed to be pulled over because it, well, yeah, we'll talk about that. It's a disaster. ICE is getting ready to deploy their agents with body cams, but then ICE put out a thing that says we will only release body cam video when it's in the agency's best interest, which means you will only be seeing body cam footage of what makes them look good. Anything that actually shows who and what they are, which we have gone over months and months of showing who and what they are, a nice little Stasi regime going on there, will not be released to the public. We also got Kash Patel, who combined the FBI with China and Russia, supposed enemies of the United States. US Today has partnered with Palantir for data collection. There's 4 online kids, quote-unquote, safety bills that have hit the Senate floor. We'll talk about that as well. We've covered all of them in particular, but they all hit the floor this past week. And then scientists have announced that AI has been used to create 16 new viruses. yeah. So plenty of things to discuss on that. Anyone else so tired? Yeah, man, I am beyond tired. I'll tell you what, absolutely beyond tired. Anyways, all right. Glad to have you guys here, though. Like I said, plenty of things to discuss, so should be fun. Mind numbing. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into some housekeeping, shall we?
Housekeeping?
No, thank you. Sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. That's our whole point on this. Again, we're not trying to stack numbers, become the greatest podcast ever. No, our goal is to try and reach those who are seeking the truth, those who may not know the truth, but are, hopefully get on the side of actually learning what's going on, and ultimately getting people to Jesus Christ, those who need the salvation that only Jesus Christ can provide. So please like, share, subscribe if you'd be willing to do so, especially on the YouTube side. YouTube is still smashing my channel right now. It is. You guys can't see it on your side of things, but on the back end, YouTube is wrecking me right now on YouTube. It's crazy. So please like, share, subscribe. Also follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. I put up on Telegram as well. So follow along on those platforms if you want to. If not, no worries. Just make sure that you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening with the Wretched Watchmen world of things. You'll find the latest podcasts and live streams. You'll find the announcement page. The free book to download is all available on there, along with our new ministry that we have called the Prayer Bears Misfit Ministry. And again, this is a way for us to be praying for each other as believers, as the body of Christ. And it's a good way to get our prayer requests out so everybody can be praying for us. So if you guys don't know, I announced this on Tuesday. But the Prayer Bear Ministry, if you put in your prayer request, you can submit your prayer request either by typing in the live chat prayer in all caps and then your prayer request, or you can go to the website and you can submit it via the Prayer Bear message box, which is just right there on the website. Very big, easy to go along with that. So you can submit them that way. I urge you, just one of those things, if you submitted a prayer request on Tuesday, don't need to submit it again on Saturday, so just keep that in mind. It makes it easier for us to keep track of everything and make sure that we don't get a bunch of duplicates. So if you put it in on Tuesday, we got it. Don't worry about it. And then every Monday, I will be posting the list on Telegram and YouTube. So I saw a couple people asking why the list hasn't come out yet. It's every Monday. So once a week, every Monday, we'll put that list out. But yeah, this is a good way for us to be able to pray for everybody. So those are the way to submit it. And yeah, for all those who do your praying, I know there's some good prayer warriors out there. This is an opportunity for that. I also spoke with Pastor Jeff at Calvary Chapel, Madison, and I let him know what was going on with that. And he thought it was a great idea, and he's going to be putting that out to his church members as well. So we might start seeing some people from Pastor Jeff's church appearing on the list as well to be praying for them. So again, we're all the body of Christ. Doesn't matter where we're at. Again, we got people all over the world here. And so I think it's pretty cool that we managed to do that. So good stuff. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel and what I got going on with this whole Wretched Watchmen thing, you'll find the latest things on the website, but you also find ways to donate, which is CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. Again, this channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views. I don't sell things, paywalls, subscriptions, none of that stuff. Everything that we do is free. And the only way that we're able to do that, and the only way that we're able to expand and do the things that we're doing, like Prayer Bears and whatnot, is because of your guys' generous donations. So if you guys would like to support this ministry and help keep it going and alive and getting the word out to people with Jesus, those links are below. Thank you for everybody who does support this and what we got going on. So you guys are awesome. Again, wouldn't be here. What is it? This is 5 years. We've been doing this since last month. 5 years. So crazy that this has been going on for 5 years. I remember when we first started out. Boy, that was in some interesting times. But yeah, you guys are the ones that keep this all going. So thank you for those who support on that. All right, that is what we got for the wretched housekeeping stuff. Let me see here. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead. It is Saturday, and that means we got ourselves the Wretched Weather Report. Let's do it.
Everybody got their fancy hats? Let's go!
All right, so if you guys don't know, on Saturdays we do the Wretched Weather Report. We keep track of the trends of what's going on with weather-related things, natural events and stuff like that, earthquakes, volcanoes, storms, tornadoes, all the stuff, hurricanes and everything. And it's a good way for us to keep track of what's going on. Again, we know these natural events are going to be part of the birth pangs that are going to increase in size and frequency as we get closer and into the day of the Lord. And so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, and it also gives us the ability to pray for those people around the world as well affected by these natural events, because as we know, this stuff can do a lot of damage, and it can really uproot and flip upside down people's entire lives with this stuff. Again, you look at places like Venezuela that's still in the very beginnings of trying to recover from the massive earthquakes that just wrecked them over there. So gives us an opportunity to pray for those around the world as well. And so keeping tabs on what's going on this past week with earthquakes 5.5 magnitude and up. We got a 5.6 in Hicks Bay, New Zealand, 5.7 in Ternate, Indonesia. We got a tie for the two big ones this week with a 6.3 in Sarangani, Philippines, and then another 6.3 the south of the Kermadec Islands of New Zealand. Then there's a 5.6 in Sarangani, Philippines, a 5.6 in Alaska, United States, a 5.6 in the southeast of Easter Island, and a 5.6 in Fudai, Japan. A couple ones not on the list that aren't qualified for the 5.5 magnitude, but still worth keeping an eye on. There was a triplet of 4 point whatever. They're all different ones, but all above 4. In Northern California, next to a couple of smaller fault lines, which we know we've been keeping tabs of what's going on over there. There's been a lot of energy shifting over there in the west coast side of North America, and we're definitely keeping an eye on that. A lot of plates moving, a lot of energy building up, a lot of earthquakes popping up on fault lines, and so that's definitely worth keeping an eye on. So there's triplets of 4.x over there, and then there was one that it registered as a 5.6, but it was reduced to a 5.0 in Egypt as well, which hit just next to Cairo, and it was felt as far as southern Israel. So pretty big one over there as well, worth keeping an eye on. As far as volcanoes this past week, we got 44 total active eruptions, which is down 4 from last week. So we went from the top of the global average down to the bottom of the global average, which is anywhere from 44 to 48 happening every day. We got 7 in North America, 6 in South America, which is down 1 from last week, 2 in Europe, 1 in Antarctica, which is down 1 from last week, 4 in Africa, which is plus 1 from last week, and 17 in Asia, and 7 in Oceania, which is down 3. So that's what we got when it comes to volcanoes there. An update on one volcano that we should be praying for people in Guatemala. The Fuego volcano activity that triggered evacuations in Guatemala is decreasing, but the risk still remains. So this didn't cause like devastation or anything like that. The Fuego volcano triggered, there was some action, visual action that you can see. And for anybody who asks, man, there's like 44 volcanoes around the world erupting, that doesn't mean that they're just continuously shooting lava out like the movies and stuff talk about. When they're erupting, a lot of it's just going on internally, but it's still considered an eruption. This is a case where there was some visual stuff coming out of the top, which means a lot of people in Guatemala had to evacuate. It says activity at Guatemala's Fuego volcano that began Monday morning and caused widespread evacuations is gradually decreasing. Praise the Lord. However, the National Coordinator for Disaster Reduction, or CONRED, urged the population to remain cautious because rainfall from a tropical wave from the East Coast could trigger potentially deadly volcanic mud flows known as yaharas. Again, be praying for those in Guatemala who are kind of sitting in a, what do we do? Just kind of wait and see. Some people voluntarily decided to go back to their home after the evacuations was lifted from mandatory to recommended. Some people went back, some people aren't, but there's still a chance that there could be some major issues there. So please be praying for those affected by that as well. All right. And that is what we got for the Wretched Weather Report this week. Again, I got to stop reading comments in the middle of a conversation because I have no idea what's going on with that. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the first thing that we got going on, which is kind of leading from natural event to technology, which is kind of our theming for this evening. And we have U.S. senators urge crackdown on wildfire betting amid warnings of arson risk. They're saying growing trends on sites such as Polymarket and Kalshi could motivate people to start fires to win money. And as you guys know, a lot of these wildfires that happen and stuff like that, some of them do come from storms. There's also issues with countries not clearing out brush like they're supposed to be. California is notorious for that. Canada is notorious for that. That's why they're consistently on fire. But then we also know there's a lot of these wildfires that are just arson, like not accidental arson, like people are going out and starting these fires just because it's fun. I grew up in Northern California, and it was almost 50% of the wildfires up in that area were because there was just some crackhead that went out there and started a fire on purpose because he thought it would be fun. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it goes on. It says prediction market platforms that allow users to bet on wildfires, and experts are warning that the emerging trend could raise the risk of arson. Probably already has happened. It says senators from 6 states sent a letter this week to the chair of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, an independent government agency regulating platforms such as Polymarket and Kalshi. The CFTC is not independent at all. It is completely under the thumb of the Trump administration. They're in full control of it. And they're saying, please urge it to rein in the practice. As we know, or in case you don't know, Polymarket and Kalshi are completely connected to the globalist agenda, to the intelligence agency, and to the Trump family and Trump administration. So the prediction markets are based off of, we discussed this in the past if you want to go back and look up the videos that we did about it. But Polymarket and Kalshi, the prediction markets are connected to the Information Awareness Office that was established back in the early 2000s, which was a formation between DARPA and the CIA in order to establish not only intelligence gathering, but to run simulations and to manipulate society in order to see how society will work. So they'll create events, watch society, pay attention. They'll watch society and how they navigate around it, collect that intelligence, and navigate that way. One of the things that they established was PAM, which is a prediction market, which will allow people to bet on real world events, and they can gather intelligence, they can manipulate societies, and they can simulate and plan future events in the future. And so that's what's been going on with that. And as we know, this is also connected to the global surveillance system, which comes with the Palantir system and everything like that. They're all connected, one and the same. And Polymarket's also connected to the Trump administration because we know Don Jr. sits on and has invested in Polymarket and Kalshi. So he sits on the board. I believe he sits on the board of Polymarket and he invested in Kalshi. I might have those reversed, but we do know that he's connected to all of that as well. We also know that the Trump administration has been suing sovereign states who have acted in their own power to block these prediction markets, which they have every right to do. And the Trump administration has burned the sovereign state, burned the Constitution in order to keep these things going because it has to do with globalist intelligence as well as money-making ventures for the Trump family. So a lot of connections on that. But as we know, they're connected to things like the Iran war. We know that things have happened where reporters have reported on where missiles struck in Israel, and these reporters received death threats to change their reports because these people were placing bets on these prediction markets. We also know that people in the Trump administration have been placing bets on insider trading and making a bunch of money as well. It says, as the Palisades and Eaton fire devastated Los Angeles in early 2025, the prediction site Polymarket gave users the chance to bet on questions such as when the wildfires would be contained, whether flames would spread to certain neighborhoods by a particular date, and how many acres of land would burn. The amounts waged at the LA fires totaled more than $1.2 million. And the summary site called Wildfire purported to be the first prediction market for California wildfire, exclusively has offered trades on what fire does next. The U.S. faces another brutal wildfire season. Huge fires in Washington state and Oregon have burned more than 2 million acres and forced tens of thousands to evacuate. And it goes on to say, somebody could place a bet and then be motivated to actually start a fire, Skeet said. There's just the practical reality of what it is you might be motivating people to do. And this is exactly what the prediction markets were built for. This is part of that information awareness office. You're manipulating society. They want to see if people are going to go out there and start doing things when it comes to placing bets on prediction markets. It's a good way to manipulate people, manipulate society, have them start events, and they can get rewarded for it, and they're walking away hands-free, and they can collect all that information and run it in their simulations and everything like that. Guaranteed there's people that have placed bets on these things and went out and start fires. We don't necessarily have the proof that says so, but again, using just the old kidneys up in the head there, you can figure out that this has probably been going on with people, not only with wildfires, but probably with a whole bunch of other events going on as well. And so this is why things like Polymarket and Kalshi, this is why they've gotten so many people, especially here in the West, hooked on gambling. We talked about how gambling, specifically sports betting, but gambling in general has now become America's pastime. There is more money spent on gambling than all of sports, concerts, art, museums, books combined. There's more people spending money on that. And of course, we live in a society that is so sin driven, and everybody is just living off of vices now because, well, not to be doom and gloom, but you know, life has really kind of gone downhill for a lot of people. And so all they have are vices, and that includes things like gambling and whatnot. And that causes a lot of problems, obviously, including being used by this globalist surveillance prediction market system happening right now. So I'm shocked that we haven't been getting reports of this earlier, to be honest. It's not necessarily something that we think about, but once you see a report on it, you go, yeah, this has probably been going on for a little while in regards to that. So we got as well, I guess another thing that I should tack onto that before we move on to the other aspect is, don't be surprised if we start seeing more things. I know it's kind of hard for us. Probably nobody here has actually been involved with like Polymarket or Kalshi. I hope not. If you are on that, please get off of it. It's not a good place to be. But I know it's kind of hard, especially since we're not on there, to be able to pay attention to these things. But there's probably going to be more events coming up in the future that these prediction markets are going to start. And you could even start seeing some stuff in the future. There's been the conversation. I've kind of taken the position that I don't necessarily see that happening, but I could be wrong. But you could start seeing conversations about betting on when a civil war or when bombs or something starts happening in the Western world. There could be bets of there's going to be a bombing in such and such city, or there's going to be a civil war. Is martial law going to be declared in November? You know, things like that. And we need to pay attention to that stuff because we might be able to get a little inside track of what might be coming in the future on that. So just something to think about when it comes to paying attention to what's happening. Julie B, I just want to go home. Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that for sure. Yeah. All right, so we have this as well. Florida Wildfire Agency used police database on activists. The database is supposed to catch criminals. In Florida, it caught the people who show up to public meetings and say the wrong thing. We know that this is becoming a major problem. I saw a couple more stories that just came out today surrounding the idea of public meetings and what's going on. We're not going to get to it today because I need time to actually look into it before I report on it. So maybe Tuesday. But we know that this is becoming a theme. We've talked about stuff in the past where people are going to local community public hearings and whatnot, and they are voicing their opinion not getting rowdy, not rioting, not doing anything like that. They're actually, civilized participation in these things, and they're getting arrested. They're being thrown out, and they're shutting down public meetings altogether simply because these people are opposing, what these crook city councils and whatnot are being paid to install in their cities. Again, this is one of those things where we started to see the trend happen. We knew that the presidential elections and stuff have been lost for decades. That's been gone for a long time. Your vote in presidential elections doesn't mean anything. Your vote when it comes to Senate and anything Congress doesn't mean anything either. Governors have been gone for a while. The last place that we actually had any say in anything had to do with local places, mayors, city councils, school boards, and stuff like that. But we have watched over the past year that even your voice at those, it's lost. They've finally gotten to the local place, which means we are in full we've been fully captured. This country has been fully captured. We have no voice whatsoever on this stuff anymore. And this is not a doom and gloom, give up, go cry in a corner, field position type of way I'm speaking. I'm just trying to give you the honest reality of the situation. This is why we don't put our hope in man. This is why we don't continue to pursue worldly things when our focus needs to be set on sights above. We need to be focused on heavenly things. We need to be out there being watchmen, sharing the truth, exposing this stuff, telling people about it, getting people on the track of, rather than going out there and wasting all of your time trying to speak in politics, why don't you get out there and actually share the gospel and be a watchman and share what's going on in the political side of things, which is fully corrupt and lawless as can be. And so that's why it's one of those things we talk about this. It's, oh, you just gave up. I did not give up. Actually, my focus has been moved to something that is far beyond giving up. I think those who continue to make their entire priority in life to go out there and be vocal as a Christian in the political sphere, you have given up because you have placed your faith in man at that point. And that's my perspective on it. There's a lot of people that disagree with me. That's fine. But I know what the Lord has shown me in regards to all this stuff. And I'm pretty confident in where I stand on that. So it says Florida's wildlife regulators found a use for a police database that has nothing to do with policing. They ran the personal files of the people who speak against them. The Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission reached into David, the state's driver and vehicle information database, to pull records on more than a dozen environmental activists who had opposed the agency. The Orlando Sentinel and Miami Herald first reported the searches, citing state documents. David is not an open registry. It holds social security numbers, home addresses, signatures, driver's license photos, emergency contacts, and medical and disability notations, and state law hands the keys to law enforcement for official use only. The Florida, I hate that word, lawmakers raised the penalties for abusing that access in 2021. I hate the word lawmaker, but I can't say representative because they're certainly not representatives anymore, so... It's just, again, harsh reality of the situation. Before we get into the next thing, basically what they're doing is because the activists who speak out about what's going on with the conservation, the environment stuff, wildlife, habitats, everything like that, they're all registered in the Fish and Wildlife Conservation database and whatnot. And so they're connected to the driver and vehicle information database, which has all the other information. And so whenever their name pops up in city councils where these people go and they speak out against the stuff that's going on, they're pulling up their entire records and placing them on a domestic terrorist list. That's what's happening with this. So those who are opposing these things, like I would technically be considered one of them when it comes to the national Texas or the Texas side of things, because I just talked about what's going on in Big Bend. The Big Bend National Park, as well as the Rio Grande. They're going in there and destroying habitats, wildlife, the local economy, 1,000-year-old Native American history. They're destroying all this stuff in order to build a wall, which actually will have no effect on anything to do with immigration. And because I'm outspoken about that, they've now added me to that domestic terrorist list as well. Yes, my goal in life, if you haven't figured it out, by the time the Lord takes us out, I want to be on at least 95% of all the domestic terrorist lists in this country. I'm aiming for that goal. I think I'm pretty close. It goes on to say, searches landed days after someone posted online or stood at a commission meeting to oppose a bear hunt or a road cut through protected land. Many were filed under criminal investigation. So if you were somebody going to a city council meeting to speak your opinion that opposes what's going on, which you have every right to do, that's what the First Amendment is there for, you are now being placed in a criminal investigation. Even though you broke no law and all you did was exert your First Amendment right, they are deeming you a criminal and are opening an investigation on you. That's what's going on, and this is happening in Florida. It's happening in every state right now, especially when it comes to conversations about data centers and stuff like that. And it says the label would mean more if the agency could name a crime, but it hasn't. They're opening a criminal investigation on people without actually naming the crime that they committed. The FWC acknowledges that there are no active criminal cases against the people it searched. So criminal investigation, but no actual case, which means they're just chalking them up, gathering the information so they know where they're at all times and they can follow them. The commission's chair, Rodney Barreto, waved the whole thing off. When people sign up to speak, their names are checked. That's all, he said. That would be a tidier explanation if a name check required someone's social security number and medical history, which it does not. Pulling a full David file to confirm who is holding the microphone is like photographing a passport to see whether the guest is on the list. There's a difference between checking a name and pulling up an entire file and putting it as a criminal investigation for somebody exercising their First Amendment right. But this is where we're at. And it says the agency says it broke no rules. Again, this is just one of those things where I'm hoping that I'm reaching some people that are still believing that this country is somehow this freedom-loving country and Trump is saving us from the evil Democrat globalists and Republicans are here to help us and they're good people and stuff like that. And I'm trying my best to wake people up from that. Again, I know there's some people that says, can you just stop talking about politics and stuff like that? This has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with trying to get out to people to understand that your hope that you have placed in the political system, whether at the local level all the way up to the presidential level, is lost. You have no hope in this worldly system that Satan clearly has established and has full control over when it comes to this. Now, again, for those who don't abide by that and have placed their hope not in man and not in the political system and placed their hope in Christ Jesus alone, you'll understand that the sovereign God above actually has full control over the satanic system that is being used right now. But we know that that stuff is going to be going into the direction of what prophecy has told us is going to happen post-rapture and into the day of the Lord. And so again, I use this as a reminder, let go of this. Again, I've shown mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence that says Trump is a bad guy. He's a part of the globalists. He's evil. The Republicans are just as evil as the Democrats. But yet, I every time I travel and take a little jaunt and take a look at what's going on with some of these other more political activist pastors and podcasts and stuff like that, they still hold on to this idea that the Republicans are good and Trump is a good guy and he's trying to help us. It's just the people around him that are bad. And it doesn't make any sense because how can Trump be so smart playing 40 chess, but yet he's too stupid to actually figure out who's good and who's bad around him that gives him information? You can't have it both ways. All you do is show your ignorance whenever you put that idea forward and reject when somebody shows that that can't be the same. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Again, people are still blindfolded. They're still following the satanic paradigm deception that's happening, and it's creeping further and further into the church. And one of the things that we do here, obviously, one of the main things that we cover is deception. We're trying to get people to wake up, specifically believers, to wake up from that satanic deception and leave it all behind and keep your eyes focused on Christ above. Yeah. That leads us to this. New Orleans will use AI to answer 911 calls instead of a human. Now, this has been slowly creeping into the United States for a while, for a long time, since roughly 2016. Wait a minute, 2016. Who came into presidency? 2016. Oh, anyways. roughly about 2016 that this has been creeping in when it comes to AI system, because one of the main proponents behind automated AI law enforcement and everything that goes along with it comes from the deal that Trump made with his buddy that worked at, he was one of the main dudes at Walmart, who came up with the Safe Home Pre-Crime Prediction platform that he pitched to Trump. And Trump went to William Barr, yes, that William Barr, to begin the establishment, the deployment of it in this country, which that was one of the main things that William Barr, who we know William Barr was connected to Epstein. Epstein was majorly connected to this pre-crime surveillance system. And we know Epstein's connected to Trump. And again, they're all in bed together. It's the club. That's the George Carlin club. You know, that's one big club. You're not in it. And these people have been working on this since 2016 to establish a pre-crime AI law enforcement system. And we know the pre-crime system is on its way. FBI is deploying it. FEMA is getting involved with it. We know that there's other AI systems that are playing a part. We got the flock cameras. We got the Axon cameras and street lights. We got the drones that are starting to be deployed. We know that they have other things like Project Briar. Project Briar is something that I talked about. That was 4 years ago, I think. 3 or 4 years ago, we talked about the Briar system that's able to trace people even when they're underground. And that's something that's been involved with IARPA, which is the intellectual department of DARPA. And so this is all connected to a pre-crime AI automated system. And this is the next deployment of the AI 911 response. It says, if you call 911 in New Orleans, you may hear the sound of an artificial intelligence agent answering your call instead of a human voice. The Orleans Parish Communication District, the OPCD, is changing the way the dispatch calls are handled in New Orleans with the implementation of new technology. It says New Orleans implemented AI in April to answer 311 calls for non-emergencies. The AI was trained and programmed to provide information to callers, as the OPCD says 50% of 311 calls are for information. AI is now answering 911 emergency calls in Louisiana's largest city and one of the cities with the highest call rates in the United States. The OPCD is using Carbine. Anybody who's been around my channel for about a year, you know that I've mentioned Carbine before. Is using Carbine's AI emergency call triage, with triage being the process of analyzing and prioritizing emergency calls. The AI system assesses incoming calls and can provide immediate feedback to callers. Now, we've covered Carbine in the past. I have a major deep dive on it on my channel. If you go to my YouTube page, go down to the deep dive section, click on that, and you'll find a video. It says I think it's like the pre-crime technocratic monster. It's one of those things. It has Carbine on the thumbnail. But if you don't remember what Carbine is an Israeli intelligence agency designed to plug into and automate the United States and like Europe and whatnot, their emergency response systems. Exactly what this is doing. It's an AI 911 call. And as we know, it was funded by Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak. It says Jeffrey Epstein was Ehud Barak's business partner as late as 2015. If we jump down, it says American financier Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender now embroiled in a sex trafficking case involving minors. This is an article from 2019. Was an active business partner with former Prime Minister Ehud Barak as late as 2015. Barak formed a limited partnership company in Israel in 2015 called Sum EB to invest in a high-tech startup they then called Reporty, now named Carbine. A large part of the money used by some to buy Reporty stock was supplied by Epstein. So yes, this is a case where Barak and Epstein were financing an AI pre-crime law enforcement system utilizing Israeli intelligence system. And that's not the only person connected. We know Founders Fund invests in a 911 startup called backed by Ehud Barak. And Founders Fund, of course, is Peter Thiel, yes, of Palantir. It says Peter Thiel's venture capital firm Founders Fund has joined a $15 million Series B funding. This was... They don't have a... Oh, 2018. A 15 million Series B fund rounding as an emergency response startup Carbine, backed by former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein. Listed as reporting Homeland Security Limited, Carbine develops a technology designed to enhance first response services, reducing the time it takes first responders to assess, prioritize, and act in a crisis situation. Carbine's digitized 911 system helps first responders best process incoming emergency calls using information sources from live video streaming, voice over IP, and location detection. And this is everything that we've been seeing built into the infrastructure here in the United States. When you're talking about automatic license plate readers, you're talking about smart street lights, people's cell phone systems, the drone systems that they're starting to deploy, Tesla cars that have microphones and cameras all the way around. All of these systems are being plugged into an AI pre-crime system. And so what this system does, to kind of put it in a nutshell, is it will handle not only automated 911 calls, but it's going to take all of that information and it's going to start predicting who, what, and where a crime is going to happen. And it's going to automatically put out a call, and it's either going to send a drone or it's going to send actual police to a location before a crime is committed, because the system has gathered information, has sorted through people's social profiles, and has determined that this person is going to go to this place and is going to commit this crime. And they're literally going to dispatch people to that area before that person even gets there and commits the crime. That's what Carbine's system is doing, and that's what's being deployed here in the United States. And it was funded by Epstein, Ehud Barak, as well as Peter Thiel. When it comes to Carbine, where it's actually like developed and whatnot, the founders of it are Amir Elkai, Alex Dizengoff, and Lital Lashem. Amir is a former Israeli intel agent. He was involved with Israeli intelligence as well as Unit 8200, which of course is their, backbone elite. They're like the Navy SEALs, but for intelligence gathering. They're not the Mossad, which is a much bigger organization. This just has to do with the digital and cyberspace intelligence group. And so Amir comes from that. He's one of the founders. Alex Dizengoff is an Israeli Prime Minister cybersecurity. He was involved with he was the right-hand man when it comes to the cybersecurity of the Prime Minister's office. Netanyahu, Barak, people like that. And then Lital Lashem, she was an IDF captain. She's a part of Black Cube Intelligence, which is a offshoot private intelligence Israeli firm. And she's connected to Eric Prince of Blackwater. We know Eric Prince is connected to Blackwater as well as the wellness company. He's involved with a lot of the pre-crime surveillance systems being deployed in China, those same ones that are also making their way over here in the United States. He's the one that built the system which surveils and imprisons the Uyghurs over there in China. She worked with him to develop that technology that's being used on Uyghurs in order to develop Carbine that is now being deployed on us on a broad scale level. Those are the three founders with funding from Epstein, Barak, and Peter Thiel. Of course, investors, you got Barak, Epstein, and Thiel. Viktor Vekselberg, which is a Russian oligarch connected to Russian intelligence as well as a close friend of Putin. So yes, even the Russians are involved on this. Yes, if people still haven't figured it out, the United States, Russia, China, Israel, Iran, they all work for the same Luciferian cabal. They're all in cahoots with each other. And then Andrew Intrader, who's connected to Vekselberg, and he was hired by Michael Cohen, the lawyer, which was Trump's lawyer, which has a connection there as well. So this is Carbine. Again, this is just a quick overview. Go check out that pre-crime monster video that I did that goes much deeper into who these people are, what the system does and everything, to get a better idea. But that's what's being deployed in New Orleans and answering 911 calls now. Doesn't that make you feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside? Yeah. It goes on to say, this is intended to handle the increase of calls that are related to one incident, so callers get automatically routed to an AI agent who asked if they are calling regarding that particular incident. Now, what they're saying is this just has to do with if multiple calls are coming in regarding the same incident, whether it's like rush hour traffic and there's an accident that happens, or there's like a bank robbery or something and multiple people are calling the police, this AI system is supposed to be there to make sure that all those calls don't flood the human 911 operators, so they're available for other emergency calls that come in. This is just the beginning. Again, it's one of those things, it's just being used for this. It's no big deal. Yeah, right now. Give it a couple months and we'll see if it's the same story. Because all this is doing is it's creeping its way in. Says this combats multitudes of calls piling up and taking longer time to potentially answer an emergency call. The OPCD said that the AI will not be used to handle emergency calls, only to direct such calls to a human dispatcher for now. That's the key. For now. We got to keep that in mind. And it goes on to say, it's also possible that AI agents handling 911 triage could fail to understand individuals with stronger accents and dialects, as well as differences in pitch and articulation. This is because AI is programmed with automatic speech recognition systems and therefore could potentially be unreliable when presented with a speech, unlike the ones used for the AI training. And that's something to keep in mind. This is happening in New Orleans. Now, I don't know if people have ever heard like a legitimate Cajun accent before. There is no way that the AI is going to be able to understand what an actual Cajun person is saying. That accent is so insanely difficult to understand, especially when it's thick, and down in that area, those Cajun accents are very, very thick. So there's going to be a lot of issues with that if the AI is not going to be able to understand a Cajun accent. Again, those things are brutal to understand if you did not grow up around it. So, whew. Proton Girl, like Verizon AI says, you don't have to press buttons. You can talk to me like a real person. I'm a real boy, says Pinocchio. Yeah, no. Absolutely not. No, whenever I get one of those AI systems, I just sit there and repeat over and over and over again. Human agent. I just say it over because like they've trained AI that they'll try and redirect you 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and you just have to keep repeating it until they finally give up and go, okay, transferring you to a human agent. It's like, yeah, that's what I asked for. Get out of my way, you stupid computer. Anyways. Yeah. I tell AI, you're stupid. Proton, I go locka. It works sometimes. Just if you really want to get a human agent on the phone real quick, just pull the old Meet the Parents movie when he goes on the plane. And they're trying to kick him off because he's a disturbance. He's like, what? It's not like I said bomb or anything. Just say bomb on the phone and you get somebody on real quick. Anyways. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with ALPRs or automatic license plate readers or Flock, Axon, that type of stuff. And big tech runs on gas lighting. It says, do not mention ALPR usage. How cops are trying to hide their use of Flock. Yeah, they're being instructed. Cops are being instructed to hide this technology being used against the people. It says when cops use Flock to arrest somebody in Wapello County, Iowa, they don't want them to know. A usage policy for the automated license plate reader cameras in the county tells police in no uncertain terms to keep them a secret. Do not mention ALPR usage to the occupants of the vehicle. The policy document reads, do not mention ALPR usage in your report or complaint unless absolutely necessary. This is your supposed public service agent. This is supposed to be there to serve the public. And they're doing everything that they can to use dystopian surveillance technology to take your rights away and arrest you, and then hide what they're using in order to be a giant dystopian boot on your neck. Again, this is another one of those cases where it's like, I wish people would realize and wake up to the fact of what's going on. This is why it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now because even the sheriffs are just as corrupt as the regular police are. But that's why the Constitution specifically outlines a representative law enforcement that is not connected. It is not a part of the same judge and jury system. It's supposed to be a checks and balance system. That's why the Constitution says law enforcement needs to be a representative sheriff, and that's why the Constitution outlines not having police, because police are technically a standing military, and we're not supposed to have that because that means the very same people that are investigating you and arresting you work for the very same people that are going to issue the charges and punishment on you, and it's not supposed to work that way. But again, it doesn't matter anymore. We're at a point right now. And I've tried to stress this as much as I could. We're at a point right now where even trying to go to the right direction to uphold what is right and what is lawful in this country doesn't matter because we're so far gone that you either can't do it, or if you were to do it, you would collapse another section of society because our country has become so corrupt and so broken and so beyond what is lawful and constitutional, there's no going back. That's why, having the argument of, well, we need to get the financial system back. There's no way that you can do it without breaking it. That's why we need to get rid of these social programs and we need to start doing this. Again, there's so many people that are so reliant upon those social programs, even though they're not supposed to be here in this country, that if you take them away, you're going to be killing millions of people in this country. So even doing the right thing now can't be done. It can't be. And this is the reality of the situation. Again, I'm not here to try and make you feel bad or go doom and gloom. Again, this is not that case. If you have your hope in Jesus Christ, when we're talking about this stuff, even in this case, we should take that as encouragement because that means we're getting closer to going home. This is the lawlessness. This is the corruption. This is the downward trajectory towards that globalist beast system that's coming. And so don't get down and out about it. But again, if we keep our eyes on heavenly things, we'll understand that, okay, we can't spend our time talking about trying to fix a system that cannot be fixed. We need to get out there and make sure that we're warning people about this system and what it's turning into and share the gospel with them. And a hint, the system is not turning into communism. Again, I'm seeing that everywhere. It's going to be communism. No, it's not. This is going to be a neo-feudalistic technocracy. You're going to be begging for communism to what they're building. Anyways, a lot of rants tonight. Just got to go with it. The police guidance document is unusual in how clearly it tells police not to mention the flock use, but it also highlights several important things in the flock debate. While Flock likes to say that it is transparent surveillance company, I'm Barbara Walters, and that it cares about accountability and governance. That's a knee slapper. Oh man, some of its customers believe its use should be kept secret, including city councils, sheriff's departments, and police departments. Flock is now operating in thousands of cities and towns, and when, how, and why police use the system is wildly inconsistent. Yep. Goes on to say it is not just local police in small communities who are creating policies designed to obfuscate, my word, can I get that out, flock usage. Earlier this year, we reported that police in multiple states were being told to be as vague as permissible about why they were using flock because their searches could be obtained using public records requests, and that warning was being shared by the FBI and Department of Justice. Because there's been so many reports now of cops getting caught red-handed, stalking women, stalking other people, searching people, following people that they're not supposed to be, literally using both the ALPR system as well as the crime incident databases where cops have been caught stalking women who have reported crime incidences and have been victims of crimes, and these cops are positioning themselves outside of places like coffee shops and gyms where these girls go to in order to be a shoulder to cry on and to try and obtain a romantic date because of it. That's what this stuff is being used for. We're not even talking about mega corruption of what this is being used for, the giant dystopian surveillance system. We're talking about just sinful man as cops who are stalking women to try and either get back at an ex-partner, or they're trying to obtain dates from women who have reported crimes. This is the world, the society that we live in. It's not just here either. This is going on in places like Canada. I did a report about how that stuff's happening in Canada too. So keep that in mind. But these cops are getting caught because of this stuff. There's more and more reports almost daily. There's new reports about cops getting caught. Some of them searching the same person. Most of the time it's either an ex-lover or like an ex-wife or something, up to 400-500 times a month. They are checking in on these cars. They're stalking people. And those are just the reports that we're getting. We're getting reports from these police stations that are saying, keep this on the hush-hush. Be as vague as possible. Whenever you search this stuff, don't put it in reports. Don't put it in these things so you don't get caught. That's what the police chiefs and the district chiefs are telling the cops. Not because they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing and making sure these cops are getting kicked off the forces for abusing this surveillance technology that shouldn't be in there in the first place. No, they're doing this to protect themselves. And we've talked about how there's all these movements. You get the feminism movement and what that became. There was that whole, you guys remember the Me Too movement when it came to the assault on men, which is an extension of the feminism thing. Then you got the stuff when it comes to like the BLM movements. You got the Antifa movements. You got the J6 stuff. You got the Proud Boy movements. Well, one of the other movements that has to do with influencing the stuff was the Back to Blue movement, which that became an instance of no matter what, we support the cops. And so now even when this stuff is coming out, people are not believing the reports of what these cops are doing because they were gaslit by the movement of the Back to Blue. And so this is one of those things where this is the gaslighting. Not only are the police gaslighting people when it comes to using flock technology, but also movements attached to it are using it to make sure that people don't accept reality and simply reject the truth because they were told back to blue no matter what. And the Black to Blue movement was at war with the BLM movement. You guys remember that? Because it came from the defund the police departments because of the BLM thing. You see how they pit each other against both sides, gaslighting their own people and pitting them against each other. Meanwhile, the people who are controlling it above it are just sitting there laughing and moving forward with their agenda because people are so brainwashed into fighting each other as opposed to actually paying attention to who's in control of these movements. This is just total manipulation, societal manipulation, brainwashing, propaganda, narratives, gaslighting, all into one package when it comes to this. And it's hard because a lot of people don't want to recognize that, because just the fact that I'm even bringing this up, there's going to be a lot of people that have been brainwashed by that, and they're going to immediately result into calling me a leftist. Simply because I'm pointing out a campaign that's being used by both sides in order to pit people against each other, and both of them are gaslighting and altering reality in order to do it. But they revert back to that brainwash that they've had their entire life. No! I was told conservatives, Republicans, we support the police. You're a leftist. You support BLM. No. I'm just trying to tell you what's going on. It's man, I don't know. I've spent so much time. I don't necessarily report on it too much. I did a series on it, the Psywar series, but I've spent so much time looking at the psychology of how this stuff works, the psychology of warfare and what they're doing. And it's just, if people had any idea what's going on with this, man, it's crazy. It goes on to say, Wapello County's standard operating procedures document for flock cameras was created in November of 2025. So it's relatively fresh. And it goes on to say, do not mention ALPR usage in your report. Again, ALPR, ALPR, automated license plate reader. Usage in your report or complaint unless absolutely necessary. If asked a direct, this is straight from the police department's document. If asked a direct question about ALPR usage by someone such as an attorney, tell the truth, it says. If it is necessary to explain in a report, it is advised to use language such as using county resources. So again, they're saying fudge it. They're saying skew it. They're saying hide the actual details of what's going on. Using county resources, I discovered the suspect vehicle was bearing a Iowa plate. So basically lying. It's lying. It's saying using county resources. I just discovered that they were using. No, you used an ALPR, but they don't want that in the report because it makes this whole system look bad. It says treat the ALPR information like you would intelligence. It is simply a lead that you verified and acted on. It says the guidance to keep flock use secret is reminiscent but less extreme than guidance on other secretive police technologies. For years, police tried to hide the existence of cell site simulators known as stingrays, going as far to drop criminal cases where it was likely that the judge would expose information about them. So again, once a case gets into discovery, they drop it altogether because they don't want the information getting out that they were using the stingray technology. Stingrays are essentially fake cell phone towers that can be used to identify the phones of people in a specific area. They still use these things all over. They have mobile stingrays now. They used to just be towers. You would find them like they would be dropped off in certain locations as like a little on a trailer, and it kind of looked like a miniature cell tower. Now they just put these into vehicles. There's a whole bunch of vehicles, police vehicles now that just have stingrays in them. That basically it's a giant dragnet as they go through. It's a fake cell phone tower, and if a cell phone pings off of it, because that's what these things do, your cell signal just pings off all these towers. It would collect your data. It would identify who you are and be able to track you via the cell phone network. And so they didn't want that information getting out either. In the public records request, Sheriff Don Phillips said there is no need to tell people about the use of flock. And again, here we go. This is what I was talking about. Again, even the right thing is not the right thing because now the sheriffs are on the payroll when it comes to all this usage as well. Proton. So driving by and gathering our cell phone contents. Yeah, they've been doing that for a long time. They have these fake towers that do just that. And again, this is I know the main name when it comes to all this ALPR stuff is Flock, but keep in mind there's a ton of them out there. Flock's the big one, obviously, because they're the most controversial, but Axon is going in and replacing a lot of the stuff. Axon's got the ones with the smart street lights that have the cameras and the microphones as well. But there's other ones that are just, they're not really well-known names out there. That you'll find that police use all the time. Police still use license plate readers and place them in like parking lots and stuff. There's these little towers that have like the flashing blue lights. The HEBs here in Texas have them all over the place. You just pull into an HEB parking lot and there's a police tower sitting there. It's just it's a license plate reader. It's not Flock. It's not Axon. It's just another version of it. We know the UK and the European Union's got them. Canada's got them going on. Mexico's got them going on. And they're not all Flock. It's just... Flock is the main one known out there. So ALPRs in general are just getting worse and worse and worse. And keep in mind, most modern cop cars have ALPRs, automatic license plate readers installed on the cars themselves now. Even things like the Tesla, people driving Teslas around, guess what's installed on those? People don't even realize that they're driving around with ALPRs on there, and that data is being sent to Tesla, which is being sent to the centralized database, and bada bing, bada boom. So there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. As much as I love seeing a story about somebody taking down a Flock camera as much as the next guy, and I always like give a little fist jab. It's like, yeah, it doesn't do any good, but it's still nice to see. That's all I can say. Yeah. Anyways, that leads us to this as well. More gaslighting when it comes to this technology. Own the narrative. Leaked Flock guide shows how it teaches cops to promote its technology. to gaslight city councils into accepting the technology. It says this document shows a coordinated effort from Flock Safety to compel law enforcement agencies to convince our elected leaders to represent their interests in a company rather than the interests of concerned citizens. And this is, again, something that we've been talking about specifically in the last 6 months. That has increased, where these city councils are not only not listening to the people, the majority of the people against these things, but they're hiding, they're arresting, and they're moving city council meetings into undisclosed locations so people can't even show up. Again, I'll talk about that probably on Tuesday. That's something that I just saw that we can't get to tonight. This 404 Media has obtained a coaching guide that Flock Surveillance gives to police about how to speak to city councils about public safety technology. The handbook highlights how Flock and police team up to convince cities to buy and keep its automated license plate reader technology, even when there is widespread public opposition to it, and encourages police to own the narrative before someone else does. Gaslight. By championing the technology before citizens can oppose it during public comment periods. Do you guys not recognize what's going on? They're telling the police, and they're telling the city councils that are getting these guides, you're going to war against the people. Your goal is not to change the minds of the people. Your goal is to stand your ground and make sure that this technology that suppresses and places chains upon the people gets through. And that's what the city councils and the cops are doing. They're taking their orders from these technology companies, even though they're supposed to be representatives of the people, but they are taking the position of being at war with the people that they supposedly serve. It's one of those things where this is not a case of they're blatantly telling you. This is a case of you have to read between the lines and see it, because this is what's been going on, and it's getting worse. Again, you have city council telling police and sheriffs to arrest people at city council meetings for using their First Amendment right, not breaking any laws, not breaking any rules, using their First Amendment right in opposition of what the city council is doing. And the police and the sheriffs are obeying an unlawful order to arrest and charge the people for utilizing their First Amendment right. This is not a one-off situation. This is consistently happening every single day all over this country. Your hope is not in government. Your hope is not in politics. Your hope is not in city council, mayor, police, government, Senate, Congress, president, none of it. Your hope is not in these people who are actively at war with the people, because they are being told by the people above them to install this system even at the behest of the people. Faith in Jesus and Jesus alone. The PDF guide notes that the general public and cities now increasingly expect transparency, oversight, and accountability alongside public safety outcomes, and tells police to not argue with people who believe that Flock's license plate readers are mass surveillance, because if they do, all that does is draw more attention to it. Their goal is to try and just ignore it and continue to slide things through. Don't avoid the concept of mass surveillance because you're not going to convince opponents that it's not, the company recommends. Flock tells law enforcement agencies they need to try and convince city council and city managers that the technology is worthwhile before meetings with the public occur, that they need to have a carefully scripted presentation ready to go, and that people need to say they want Flock because they want to keep the community safe. Gaslighting. You care about your community. That's why you're bringing this in. Again, they're trying to flip it around. It's like, oh, no, you're saying it's mass surveillance and whatnot, but don't you care about the community? Don't you care about protecting the community? That's why we need this. That's why we're bringing this in. So if you oppose this, then you don't care about the community. It's the same thing that Congress is doing when it comes to the online passports and the internet passports and the digital ID. They're doing the same thing when it comes to kids. One of the people who started that whole trend was Josh Hawley, who is praised in the churches as a good Republican here to protect and restore the Constitution, when he's a part of the very same people that are destroying it to install a digital slave system. Well, we need this digital ID and age verification and stuff. We need to take the ability of people to be anonymous online in order to protect the kids. Meanwhile, the very same people that are saying we're protecting the kids are the very same people trafficking and molesting the kids. You're being gaslit by politicians that don't give a rip about you, and you're sitting there praising them and pushing them as some type of hero. The very same people that you said that you were against. The principles that you stood upon, you're actually praising the very same people participating in those that oppose them. It's just, it's funny. I was going through my phone the other day, and I'm somebody, I like memes. I think they're hilarious, you know, the pictures and stuff. Again, I post one every Sunday on Telegram. I think they're funny. I found one that I've had this for years, and it says, the leftists say that there's Nazis everywhere. The right wings say that there's communists everywhere. And I'm sitting there going, they're all a bunch of pedophiles. Everybody is pointing the finger at a communist or a Nazi, not realizing that the people that are gaslighting the group are the very same people that, yeah, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. And it's working perfectly. It's so funny because the same people that are out there talking about deception and gaslighting and whatnot are the very same people that are falling for the deception and the gaslighting. You got some of these guys out there that are, you know, trying to defend Trump to the best of their ability, saying, oh, you know, he's not perfect. He makes mistakes just like you and I make mistakes. It's like you're gaslighting your congregation in order to protect a globalist pedophile who's been connected to everything corrupt and lawless happening in this country. Congratulations. You fell for it, even though you're trying to tell people that you didn't. You got some out there that do one of the biggest proponents of deception, who pushes all of this stuff, including the 7 Mountain Mandate and mystery music and the political system and everything involved with it, talks about deception, wrote a book called The Days of Deception, even though he's one of the biggest deceivers in the church today. It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. It says Flock began offering this guide as part of a broader attempt to coach police on how to push back against the criticisms of its policies and security practices. These include the fact that Flock data was regularly making its way into ICE, often in violation of sanctuary and state laws, that Flock was being used to search 83,000 cameras nationwide for a woman who had an abortion in Texas, and that Flock has been used by police to stalk people and surveil protesters. These investigations and broader concern over the surveillance state led to many cities to hold city council meetings to reconsider their Flock contracts, and this Flock-produced guide in an attempt to help police shape the narrative in a way that will either convince cities to buy Flock or to keep their contracts. And that's another instance of how they're utilizing this stuff, because they're utilizing people's principles against them in order to install something else that they oppose in it. We're believers in Christ here. We understand that abortion is sinful. It's an abomination to the Lord and everything like that. But what they're doing is they're getting people like us who oppose abortion to praise what they did with Flock in order to go after the woman who went out of state to get an abortion, not realizing that not only are we against abortion, but we're also against the system that they used, where they tried to, they tapped into 83,000 Flock cameras to track this woman across state borders in order to go and arrest her for committing a crime based upon the laws here in Texas. And it's one of those things where they're trying to get you to accept this dystopian system because we have principles against abortion. And I'm sitting there going, both can be the same. I can sit here and go, that woman committed sin and an abomination and committed murder, but at the same time, I am not for the dystopian system that tracked her across borders in order to go and arrest her for it. I can be for both of those, but they are expecting people to choose one or the other. A lot of us are against the whole sanctuary city stuff because we understand what it brings. However, they're getting people to accept and promote ICE and what they're doing with this technology, not realizing that ICE is being used literally against all things constitutional to take away your freedom and your rights. The very same freedom and rights that you said, well, if Kamala Harris got in the presidency, she's going to be doing this. But because Trump got in the presidency and he's doing it, you're now in support of it, simply because there's an R next to the name as opposed to a D. Again, they're preying on people who don't actually have actual beliefs in anything, and they're manipulating them to accept the very same things that they were shouting against just a year or two ago. Again, this is a part of the psychological factor that's being deployed on this, and it's genius. It's evil as all get out. Psychology is such a dark and evil place. I've talked about that anytime I go into this stuff. I don't recommend people dive into psychology. I've been there. It's dark. It's clearly satanic in nature, but this is how Satan operates. He utilizes this stuff in order to manipulate people. He takes away people's beliefs and principles, places them upon sinking sand of politics. And so these people who shout the loudest don't actually believe in anything, even though they're the first person to tell you what they believe in. They simply go with what their politician or their party tells them to go with, even if it's in direct opposition of what they were standing on just a year ago. Again, it's so fascinating, because the very same people that in 2024 were saying Kamala Harris, if she gets in, she's going to be doing this, and this, are the very same people that now Trump got in the office and he's doing everything that they said Kamala Harris was going to do. They're now in support of it simply because it's Trump and not Kamala. That's why it was always Trump. That's why it was always a display. It was always theater, because he was the pick. He's been groomed since the 80s. And he's gotten those people who are opposed to all of these things now in favor of it. Psychological warfare 101. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I could talk for hours on the psychological stuff when it comes to this. I'm not going to. Not tonight, but there's just so much to it. There's honestly so much to it. But the thing is, again, another aspect of the psychological warfare is they've trained people both on the left and the right, both. For anybody who has looked into this and sounds the alarm of this psychological warfare, both the left and the right will instantly attack that person for exposing it. They'll say that you're on the other side. It's so funny. It's mind-boggling. Every week, I get called both a MAGA and a communist. Every week. Comments and emails. Just the other day, somebody said, this is a communist propaganda channel. Like, how can I be both, people? How can I be both? Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Anyways. All right, halftime hydration break. What do you want? Dope? Some good stuff. No. Anyways. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's keep this going. Keep it rolling. Plenty of things to discuss, including this. Oh yeah. This is a case, one that's been reported on. I think this stuff has happened more, but happened more that's what's being reported on, but we'll get to that in a second. It says Brookfield police stop vehicle on I-94 after outdated flock alert from Milwaukee police. This was just yesterday. And it says, triggered by a flock safety camera alert, Brookfield police conducted a high-risk traffic stop on Interstate 94, but the vehicle officers stopped had no connection to a homicide Milwaukee police were investigating. On Thursday, a flock safety camera flagged a vehicle traveling on I-94 in Waukesha County. The alert warned officers the vehicle was connected to a Milwaukee homicide investigation involving an armed suspect. Minutes later, Brookfield officers conducted a high-risk traffic stop on I-94, ordering 2 people out of the vehicle at gunpoint. Investigators soon realized that they were not the suspects police were looking for. So because of flock cameras, they not only shut down I-95 in the middle of a highway, but they pulled 2 people out of their car at gunpoint, and they were not involved with a homicide. I got to show you this clip because it shows what the chaos that this thing caused. Let's see here.
Triggered.
Yeah. So here we go. Check this out.
Triggered by a flock safety camera alert, Brookfield police conducted a high-risk traffic stop on I-94. The car officers stopped had no connection to a homicide that Milwaukee police were investigating. As Ardua Israr explains, the incident is raising concerns about how the flock system is used.
A flock safety camera flagged a vehicle traveling through I-94 in Waukesha County. The alert warned officers the car was connected to a Milwaukee homicide investigation involving an armed suspect. Minutes later, Brookfield officers conducted a high-risk traffic stop on I-94, ordering 2 people out of the vehicle at gunpoint. Investigators soon realized this wasn't their suspect.
Look at that. So because Flock falsely tagged this car of being involved with a homicide, they shut I-94, all of that down. Shut it all down to pull these people out of their car at gunpoint. Could have been shot, could have been killed. And they had nothing to do with it. Now, I'm of the belief that this is just one of the stories that's being reported. Something tells me that this is happening a lot more often than what's being reported. And something tells me there's been some people killed because of false Flock reports. Now, keep in mind, Flock says that they're there just to keep license plate readers there in order to make sure that they can track criminals and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we've caught that Flock cameras are in children's gyms, playgrounds, preschools, not pointed at the roads, pointed directly into where kids are. These are supposed to be license plate readers, but these things are videotaping children. They're on bike paths and walkways, not even next to roadways. You're talking about these bike paths that are off on their own thing through parks and whatnot. They're sitting on those things too. How many times has this stuff been used to falsely accuse or maybe get somebody killed? How about that? There's another story that I was going to put up. I don't have it on here that I'll talk about at the end of this, but let's get through this one first, and then I'll make reference to the other one because it just goes to show that any one of us can have one of these things used against us. And Corpus Christi just announced, that's where I'm at last week, that they're installing Flock cameras here. Just announced it last week. It goes on to say, this is a recipe for disaster where an innocent person may end up shot or killed due to a Flock mess up. Milwaukee police had cleared the vehicle from the investigation, but had not removed the alert from the Flock system. Milwaukee police later acknowledged the mistake, writing, "This was not a Flock issue." Milwaukee Police Department staff inadvertently did not remove the vehicle alert from the system. No, it still is a Flock issue because if you forgot to remove that alert from the system and there was no Flock, this wouldn't have happened. But because there was Flock, not only are you all not doing your jobs properly, But that also is being utilized by a dystopian tech system and almost got 2 people killed for something that they never did. And you shut down the entire I-95 for hours. People trying to get to from work. I don't know what time of day it was. Congratulations. Says this was still systemic failure where using flock technology led to law enforcement in a different jurisdiction through data sharing, pulling over an innocent person in a vehicle that had nothing to do with the crime that they are investigating, and pulling a firearm out at them. In a separate incident near Sunset Drive and Camden Way in Waukesha, police said someone damaged a flock camera, and investigators are still looking for the person responsible. Again, we know that doesn't fix anything, but I still cheer on the inside whenever I see that. I just do. Investigators said someone used the metal pole to damage damage the camera Wednesday evening, knocking it out of service. Police have released an image of the person of interest. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I don't care if I'm driving or walking on the side of the road and I see somebody run up and smash a flock camera, and police come up and say, "Hey, did you see who did it?" Nope. I ain't seen nothing. There's going to be some people, that's not very Christian of you. I didn't see it. I have selective vision. I have selective hearing, according to my parents, but now I've got selective vision. Sorry. Anyways. But the other thing that exactly, Lord, I know nothing. But yeah, no, the other story that I saw, I forgot to put it up. I'm sorry. The other story that I saw was there was one guy who he takes frequent trips. I believe it's for his work. He lives on the edge of one state and he has to drive into the other state consistently. He does it all week long, back and forth. Flock cameras have been flagging him every time he goes back and forth because the state that he lives in is a state that has weed as illegal, and the state that he's going to has it legal. And so the flock camera and police, because they saw him go back and forth for work-related things, decided to arrest and charge him with transporting weed from a legal state to an illegal state, even though that's not at all what he was doing. But because that's the system at play, if you're somebody who's driving from one state or another and there's 2 different sets of laws for each state, if you do it enough times, they'll flag you as a problem and they'll go and arrest you for something that you're probably not doing. You're just traveling over state lines. Welcome to the new United States. Welcome to the new United States. That leads us over to this. Because, they can only release things that make themselves look good. It says ICE will release body camera videos only when seen in the agency's best interest. Their policy says. It says Immigration and Customs Enforcement is moving to equip officers with body cameras in the next 2 months. It's so fascinating because they received funding for body cameras a year ago. And they're just now, in the next few months, going to start strapping ICE agents with body cameras. Wow. Quick movers over there, aren't they? But they're going to start equipping officers with body cameras in the next 2 months, but the agency's policy gives it a broad control over what footage will be made public by specifying any releases must be in the best interest of ICE. Which means all the illegal, unconstitutional crimes that they commit every single day, you won't get to see any of that because it makes them look bad. But anything that makes them look good that they can use for propaganda, they'll release that. Yep. After years of delays, ICE said that its field officers nationwide will have body-worn cameras by the end of September. The rollout comes after recent fatal shootings by officers enforcing Trump's immigration crackdown have intensified pressure for accountability that the cameras could provide. But the agency's body-worn camera policy could mean taxpayers who are pitching in tens of millions of dollars to pay for the cameras may be kept in the dark about some high-profile confrontations, at least in their immediate aftermath. That's right. Your money, your taxpayer money, will be purchasing a whole bunch of body cameras for ICE agents to be used for propaganda. It's not going to be used appropriately. It's not going to be used for accountability or seeking the truth or anything like that. No, it will only be used for propaganda. Don't you feel good? Can't you sleep better at night knowing that a mercenary Stasi police is going to be getting body cameras off the cost of out of your own pocket to make them look good as they go around and do illegal and unconstitutional things? Can't you sleep better at night knowing that that's happening? It says the policy says ICE will promptly release a video of shootings and other encounters in which the agents caused death or serious injury only after determining it is in the best interest of the agency. So when it makes us look good, we'll release it. When we do something bad, we won't. That gives its director discretion to release recordings that reflect well on the agency's image while working to keep others secret. Wow. Administration of transparency, right? Am I right? Make America great again. Good stuff. Such selective releases are routine in some law enforcement agencies, but usually not so clearly contemplated in policy. Yeah, that happens with police body cameras too. They tend to only release footage that makes the cops look good. All the other stuff gets buried. In some ways, ICE is saying the quiet part out loud. Body-worn cameras are being used as contemporary image work tools to present the police to the public in the most favorable way possible. And I can tell you exactly how it's going to go. The left wing will always be in opposition, and the right wing will always be in favor. You know I'm right. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to release the video footage. The leftists will blow their gasket, and the right wing will support them no matter what. You know I'm right, because they've been brainwashed. They've been programmed to do that, not to think for themselves. The same thing happened. Same thing happened with the Alex Preddy shooting. You guys remember that? It's crazy. The same people that said that they're for the Second Amendment and for our rights and freedoms and all that stuff like that, they all of a sudden, they were against a man showing up to exercise his First Amendment right while exercising his Second Amendment right, simply because he was not on the side of what they were on the side of. Because you know why? They don't actually have any principles or belief in those things. They're simply going with what they were being told to go with. And I did a huge long evaluation of all that. And we know, based upon video evidence and using actual non-biased viewing, we know that Alex Preddy was not a threat and he was murdered. Imagine that. And it says ICE's policy requires officers to activate cameras during routine enforcement activities, including while making arrests, executing search warrants, and responding to emergencies. After shootings or other serious confrontations, a committee that includes top ICE officials and lawyers will review footage and recommend whether to release it promptly, according to the policy issued in February of 2025. Well, that's another case of we investigated ourselves and we found ourselves of no wrongdoing. And if the answer is yes, the recording could be released within 72 hours. But if the ICE director finds specific and compelling circumstances justify withholding the video, like, doing something unlawful or unconstitutional, they have the authority to block or indefinitely delay the release, the policy says. Don't you guys feel, again, so much safer knowing that these people will go out there with cameras, not to make sure that you get the truth no matter what happens, but will get carefully reviewed and cultivated video to make sure that they look good and that you are still in the dark about everything that they're doing? Doesn't that make you feel good? Doesn't that make you feel good? Again, this is not a case of being on one side or the other. This is a case of standing for truth no matter what. They are actively making sure that they are hiding the truth. That's what they're doing. They are doing illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional things. We have proven them to be doing so every single day. They are lying about everything that's going on. They're lying about the numbers. They're lying about the detention centers. They're lying about all this. And now, with your taxpayer money, they're going to strap cameras to them to make sure that they can capture enough footage for propaganda use to make them look good, and they will hide the truth of everything else that makes them look bad. This is why our faith is not in these things. Our faith is not in man. This is why when the Lord said, Matthew 24, when they came up to him, the disciples came up to him and asked him about the events that are going to happen in the last days and into the day of the Lord, the very first thing Christ said, take heed, which means big red siren, pay attention to this next sentence. Do not be deceived. Do you think, legitimate question, do you think Christ meant do not be deceived of the Democrats? Because a whole lot of churches and prophecy teachers, that's the context that they give when they talk about that. Do not be deceived of the Democrats. Is that what Christ said? No. No. He said, do not be deceived. Stop. Does that include left and right? Does that include secular and religious? Does that include United States and Israel? Yes. Yes, it does. It includes all of that and above. Because Satan knows the best way to deceive people is to go through the avenue that they support. And it's working perfectly. It's working perfectly. The amount of times that I see from people, from the Christians and whatnot, when they're talking about what's going on, you know, there's bad people on both sides, but the Democrats. That's how I hear them say it now. Whenever I see that or read a comment, I'm just picturing somebody with a giant dent in their head going, but the Democrats. Because you can't think for yourself. You are simply regurgitating what you have been told by somebody else that you have placed on a pedestal that is simply telling you your own opinions from their mouth. I think that's why I get so much heat, is because I don't regurgitate other people's opinions. I tell them that their opinions are propaganda. That's all I can say. All right. Speaking of narratives and propaganda, under Kash Patel, FBI forges unprecedented law enforcement ties with China and Russia. Wait. I thought we were at war with Russia and China. I thought China and Russia hated us. I thought Trump hated them. I thought we were enemies. Everywhere I look, that's what I'm being told. So why would the FBI forge a law enforcement partnership with the very same countries that we're at war with, that are spending every waking moment trying to destroy the United States, both economically and politically? Wait a minute. How can I twist this to some illogical conclusion to make sure that I stand by the narrative that I've been fed? Well, we're not going to do that here, because here, from the beginning, we have been exposing the fact that the United States, China, and Russia, Xi, Putin, and Trump are all friends. And they're working together. Because they are. They are all friends. And they're all working together. Again, I'm not sure how people who believe the narrative are going to twist this one. Because, I mean, almost every month, aren't we getting some report that the United States Cybersecurity Department, the FBI says that China hacked our servers. They hacked our servers. They got our information. Herder. But it's okay. Even though we're at war and we know that they're trying to sink us and take us under, we're just going to go ahead and forge a partnership with them. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. It doesn't make any sense, man. FBI Director Kash Patel says he has forged new law enforcement partnerships with China. I don't have one for Russia, so China and Russia. Two longtime U.S. rivals, there's the narrative, over the past year in hopes of gaining allies in combating transnational crime, including fentanyl, cyber fraud. Why would we be working together for cyber fraud when China hacks us every single month? And child sexual exploitation. Okay, well, first stop, White House. Grab Trump. The partnerships have involved personnel exchanges in which Chinese law enforcement officials have visited the United States, and FBI agents have traveled to China to work on cases together and share intelligence. Something tells me that they're not sharing ramen recipes. Separately, FBI and Chinese officers have carried out joint raids and arrests under the arrangement. It says Patel returned from a trip to Beijing in late July, and a similar trip to Russia has been tentatively planned for October. I believe Xi is coming here in September as well. It says U.S. officials have long portrayed Russia and China as exporters of crime instead of potential allies in combating it, not to mention sources of espionage aimed at American interests worldwide. There's the narrative. That's the narrative. The narrative is Russia and China are our enemies, and they're the ones that are invading us and hacking us and economically hurting us and threatening military action and doing this and that and the cadoodle. And we know that that's a load of hooey. But yet most people still try to build their cases, still try to build their speculative stories upon the narrative that, again, at its roots, doesn't make any sense. And history doesn't support the narrative either, but yet people still continue to hold on to it. It says the current relationship began, and a lot of that has to do with the fact is Trump is one of the good guys. That's what keeps people there. They're so anchored to the idea that Trump is one of the good guys and against the globalists, and it skews everything else. And that's why they can't ever come to the Watchmen's conclusion of not being caught off guard by stuff. That's why they're constantly surprised when stuff happens, is because they continue to believe the narrative rather than thinking for themselves. The current relationship began with Trump's visit in China in May of 2025 and was followed by 2 trips by Patel to China. As part of the partnership, Patel has brought officials from China's Ministry of Public Security, or MPS, to multiple FBI facilities in the United States to share intelligence and investigative information. Man, they're just bringing the hackers straight into the FBI facilities, because they blame China for hacking their FBI servers all the time. So we're just going to go ahead and welcome those same people into our buildings. You see what I mean? The narrative doesn't make any sense. Every month, they send their working level MPS officers here, and the following month, we go there, Patel said. The cooperation between the U.S. law enforcement and leading global adversaries is a major break from the past and reflects Trump's personal approach to diplomacy with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Keep in mind, if you've forgotten, Trump has been groomed as a Russian asset since the 80s. I've gone over that in depth. You can find the video on my deep dive section on my YouTube channel if that's the first time that you've heard that. So, again, this is one of those stories that's coming out probably to test the resolve of their own narrative, to be personally honest with you guys. They're probably putting this out there to see how many people will reject this or try and twist it to make sure that their narrative is still strong, that the United States is at war with China and Russia. If that is the case, I'm not saying that that's the case. Maybe there's something else on this that I don't know about. But if that is the case, and that's what they're doing, is they're testing the resolve of the United States versus China and Russia narrative, they could be preparing for some type of escalation with those countries. In what way? I don't know, but it could be a way of making sure that escalation sinks through by testing the narrative ahead of time. They do that stuff all the time, and it's part of, again, the psychology of the warfare that they're doing. So just a perspective to think about. That's all it is. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. It's just a perspective to keep in mind. All right. Moving over, we have America's largest newspaper chain, USA Today, partners with Palantir to analyze audience data as search traffic falls. USA Today is partnering with Palantir. Woohoo! Keep in mind, a lot of the prediction markets, which again is connected to Palantir, we just went over that earlier in the show, are also teaming up with these news groups as well. They're partnering with them in order to do a back and forth of news stories and betting markets to be in cahoots with each other. And so having USA Today, which I don't know if they're connected to a prediction market, they may or may not be, but also being on board with Palantir, the chain is complete, going from news to prediction market to centralized database. USA Today has made a deal with the software company Palantir to analyze and monetize users' behavior, the company announced on Thursday. In its quarter two earnings call Thursday morning, USA Today co-chairman and CEO Mike Reed told investors he expects the partnership to strengthen how we collect, connect, and activate audience data to drive more effective and faster monetization across their platform. Every visit, every session, every moment of attention creates a signal, Reed said. When we connect those signals, we become actionable intelligence that allows us to engage users more effectively and monetize those relationships faster and at a much greater value. The work our team is doing with Palantir is a direct extension of this strategy. We are applying Palantir's AI-powered platform to one of the largest opportunities in front of us, converting the sheer scale of our audience into known orchestrated first-party relationships, because that is what turns our reach into sustainable, higher value revenue. This is the old song and dance that always has been going on when it comes to digital stuff. They collect your data and they sell it to data brokers in order for them to market and make money off of your data. This is how it goes. It's been a market for decades since the .com era came into effect. This is nothing new, but what they're doing now is they're funneling it through the centralized database Palantir system, not only to benefit them like they've been doing forever with your data, but now it's also getting plugged into the Information Awareness Office, Palantir prediction market system, and they're going to be able to use it on that end of things as well. So this is just expanding upon the brokerage, the data brokerage system market that's been there for a long time. USA Today owns more than 200 local newspapers in the United States, along with its national daily USA Today. The partnership with Palantir comes as search traffic continues to fall, a challenge faced by publications around the world, and one that the New York Times mentioned in its own earnings report Wednesday. USA Today reported 158 million unique visitors in the second quarter of the year, down from 180 million in the first quarter. I think a lot of that, I'm not saying the sole reason. I think a lot of it has to do with people are not going and seeking things on their own anymore, and they're simply asking chatbots. And so the chatbots are collecting the information from these websites anyways, which means they're still getting the news, propaganda, this, that, and the other. They're still getting everything from these articles. They're just not going directly to the source, which means the source is losing money, in this case, USA Today, because people are not going and looking things for themselves. They're being lazy and just simply going with what's being fed through an AI algorithm, as opposed to going and looking, questioning, and figuring things out on their own. I think that's part of what's going on. It also says USA Today isn't the only media company to enlist Palantir services. Axel Springer, which owns Business Insider, Political, Build, and The Telegraph, as well as Fox News, have also partnered with Palantir for its data intelligence tools. Hey, Fox News. Yeah. Thomson Reuters also supplies data to Palantir, which has been used by ICE, 404 Media reports in March. Axel Springer is heavily connected to Palantir, especially since just July 17th, Peter Thiel to receive the 2026 Axel Springer Award. It says entrepreneur Entrepreneur and investor Peter Thiel will be honored with the 2026 Axel Springer Award. With this, Axel Springer pays tribute to a person who has created new markets, reshaped existing ones in an extraordinary way, and left a lasting mark on the technological, economic, and societal debates of our time. Keep in mind, Matthias Döpfner, who's the CEO of Axel Springer, he's the same dude just a few months ago, said, if you do not support Israel, then quit your job. Otherwise, we will fire you, which means he threatened all reporters of Business Insider, Politico, Bild, and The Telegraph. If they do not write pro-Israel content, they will be fired from their job because Matthias is, well, connected to the state of Israel. So that should be no surprise on that one. So again, don't you guys feel good knowing that you're just data for these people? They don't care about you. You're just a number. You're not even a name. You're just a number. You're data. You are the carbon that they want to reduce. And your data is more valuable than you are to these people. It's always been that way. That's corporate for you. And we know the corporate has been folded over into government, and we know corporate and government has been folded over into technology. Not the other way around. A lot of people like to think that technology has been folded into government. No. Don't get it mixed up. Corporate got folded over into government. There's your fascism. And then the government, along with corporate, got folded over into technology. There's your technocracy. That's the way that's going. The technocrats are the ones controlling the government right now. That doesn't mean they're the ones controlling everything. They're being used like the government is being used by them, but they're the ones that are controlling the governments now, not just here in the United States, all over the world. And that's definitely the situation right now. Yeah, Julie B, we're cattle and they are not vegetarians. That's a good way of putting that. That's a good way of putting that for sure. Oh, man. All right. Just got two more things. I'll get through these pretty quickly. We don't need to spend too much time on this. But we do need to keep track of this stuff. This is something that we are definitely keeping an eye on. Keeping an eye on these internet passport bills, these age verification digital ID bills, keeping an eye on the NDAA, which they strapped the Section 219 to, which has to do with combining the U.S. To the state of Israel, the U.S. military and intelligence agencies to the state of Israel. These are things that we're keeping tabs on. And so the 4Kids, quote unquote, safety bills supporting online digital ID agenda hit the Senate floor. Now, we've talked about all of these individually already in the past. So I'm not going to go deep diving into all of these things, but they are all coming into the Senate now again. So we have the Chatbot Act says that nothing in it will be construed to require a company to implement an age gating or age verification system or to affirmatively collect any personal data with respect to the age of any individual that the covered entity is not already collecting in a normal course of its business. The Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, carries a version of the same premise, ruling out the affirmative collection of any personal data with respect to the age of users that a platform doesn't already gather. But now read the rest of the same bills. So before we even start getting into this, because that first part might be confusing for some people, these bills, this is how they do this. This is how they slyly get this stuff in there. These 4 bills that will essentially create age verification, digital ID, internet passport gates to even enter into the online environment. These bills don't mention that these platforms must provide a way of age verifying its users. It doesn't say that. And that throws a lot of people off because it's like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with building a digital ID because these bills don't have anything to do with making a digital ID scanner system for people to get through. What it does is it sets up a a punishment system for companies that allow kids access to certain things that they deem not good for kids. Some of them have to do with adult content. Some of them have to do with algorithmic feeds. They're different. It's a case-by-case basis. That's what they do, is they target that, saying we will punish the platform if they allow kids access to this, which means the only way that the platform can protect itself from being punished is by establishing an age verification digital ID system. So while the bills don't specifically say you must build one, what they're saying is we will punish you if you don't build one. Does that make sense? That's what these bills are doing. It's a way to, again, manipulate. Because when somebody goes and looks, well, it doesn't say that they have to do that. But if you think, again, read between the lines and you go, oh, well, if they don't, then they're going to get punished, then that's essentially what it's doing. It says yesterday, the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee sent 4 children's online safety bills to the Senate floor. COSA went through on a unanimous voice vote. The Youth AI Privacy Act from Senator Ed Markey advanced. So did the Chatbot Act from Senator Ted Cruz and Senators Schatz, Curtis, and Schiff as co-sponsors. Senator Tammy Duckworth's bill makes 4, and it orders the FTC and the Consumer Product Safety Commission to study AI-enabled toys, which turns on nothing a company has to know about a user. A 5th, the Screen Act, got a tally and no result, and that one's a bit more blunt in the language that it uses. So we don't necessarily need to go over all this stuff because I kind of explained it at the front of all this stuff. This just kind of expands upon it. But again, we've talked about these bills in the past. If you've been around the channel, you've heard me mention these bills probably 20 times by now. But all of them just hit the Senate floor. Some of them, again, for like the 3rd, 4th, 5th time. So we're still waiting. When it comes to the COSA Act, it passed the House, but we understand that the Senate's version, yes, because there's a House and Senate version because they like to make it confusing. The Senate version's a lot more strict, and the Senate Speaker, Marsha Blackburn, basically said we won't pass the House version because it needs to have what we want in it. So that probably won't go through. But I'm still keeping an eye on all these. I will continue to let you guys know what goes on with these as we move forward, because these are things that will affect us. It will affect us. This is not something that's we're just going to see it pass and go, okay, no big deal. This is something that will affect every single one of us, for sure. And last but not least for tonight, scientists used AI to create 16 new viruses. The use, and not computer viruses, these are biological viruses. The use of AI systems to create viruses opens up new possibilities for combating bacterial resistance. It also raises concerns about the pace at which technology is outstripping regulation. So I'll say right off the bat, this isn't something that just happened. This is an announcement. This is an announcement. There we go. This is a case of we've already been doing this for a long time, and now we're telling you about it. That's what this is. I am pretty confident that that's what's been going on, because I remember reading 6 years ago, about how AI was already being used to structure brand new proteins. And as you guys know, if their AI is building proteins, they've already been building viruses with this stuff. So this is clearly just a disclosure of what they've been doing for a long time, for sure. It says, for the first time, an artificial intelligence system has created a series of previously unknown viruses capable of infecting and eliminating certain types of bacteria. You are the bacteria that they want to infect and eliminate. It's true. For several years now, scientists have been able to synthesize viruses from scratch. The production of these viral genomes was primarily relied on replicating previously known pathogens or variants. In contrast, a new study conducted by scientists at Stanford University and the Arc Institute succeeded in having an AI design simple, functional, and previously unseen viruses based on information contained in the genetic sequences of millions of animals, plants, microbes, bacteria, and viruses found in nature. The researchers worked with bacteriophages, cannot say that word, microorganisms characterized by relatively small genomes, which are relatively easy to synthesize and manipulate under controlled conditions. These viruses only infect bacteria. Both algorithms were trained on millions of genomes from all domains of life. And in other words, the viruses derived from the genomes created by the AI retained the functional organization essential for reorganizing the bacterium, inserting their DNA, replicating it, and producing new viral particles, and assembling them correctly. However, the specific DNA sequences differed considerably from those observed in naturally occurring bacteriophages. Fishes, I don't know. So essentially, from my tiny little brain and what I can put together regarding this, is they managed to take the genetic sequences from several different hosts, whether animals, plants, microbes, bacteria, viruses, and stuff like that, and put it into AI, and AI was able to, like a paint shaker, shake them up and create a brand new virus based upon those particular genomes from those host places that they took them from. And the virus will specifically target bacteria as opposed to spreading towards something else. That's essentially, from my understanding, what they're speaking of in regards to it. Goes on to say, though, of the 300 synthesized genomes, only 16 gave rise to fully functional bacteriophages, fishes, featuring previously unpublished sequences, different genes, new regulatory elements, and even varying genome sizes. The behavior of these viruses also varied, with some infecting, while some infected the bacteria more quickly, others exhibited different abilities to replicate, which means these things are being able to morph and replicate on their own based upon whatever genome sequence that the AI has designed them to do. It says, although this milestone represents a significant advance for molecular biomedicine, it also raises concerns about the potential malicious use of this technology to develop, for example, new diseases, highly toxic substances, or pathogens capable of triggering a new pandemic. You think? We already got AI out there breaking free from human control, going and hacking and infecting computers with viruses that it developed on its own that humans have no way of stopping. Now you've given that access to biological viruses that AI would be able to develop, and you don't think that that's not going to... There are currently no safeguards capable of effectively preventing the creation of a lethal virus with the help of AI. I'll be honest, I'm usually not one of those people that likes to think in this way, and you guys know me. I try to take a more I don't necessarily know the word, because I would say logical, but it's not really logical. It's not conservative either. I'm not one that necessarily jumps on the sensational bandwagon of trying to attach something to a biblical prophecy that's going to happen in the future. I like to take a very slow, studied, ground level approach. You guys know me on that. But in this case, the very first thing that popped into my head, man, is I'm sitting there going, we know that there is going to be some serious diseases being unleashed. One of the horsemen is going to be bringing that stuff. And my first thought was, man, it would just totally make sense that AI would be developing something like this, and it gets out and it just wreaks havoc across the earth. Again, I don't necessarily think in that direction. I'm not one that likes to, because there's so many people out there that try to attach this stuff to biblical stuff. And it's like, we need to make sure that we dial that in, reel it in, and just take it from a cautious approach. But that was my first thought. I'm like, this is just opening the door for that spiritual horseman to utilize it, because that I could totally see that. You have a demonic AI system, demonically possessed AI system that develops some type of pathogen, bacterium, prod, virus, I mean, any one of them develops that, and you got this spiritual horseman that can just ride in and take that and just unleash it, and there he goes. It's that simple. So I'm not saying that's the case that's going to happen, because we don't know how that whole thing is going to unfold. We know it will happen. The scripture says it will happen, but we don't know how or to what avenue, what tool it will use for it to happen. But that was my first thought on that. Either way, even if we don't attach that to this ain't good. But like I said, I believe that this is disclosure. I do not believe this is an announcement saying we just did this. No, I think this is disclosure saying this is what we've been doing for a long time. That's my personal perspective on it. My personal perspective. I'm not telling you that that's the actual case here, because I don't know. That's just how I think on that one. Either way, it's not good. But you know what is good? Yes, you can give the Sunday school answer. That's okay. Jesus. Jesus is good. And it's only Jesus. There you go. Thank you, Jalapeno. Thank you. Appreciate that. Chris, somebody ban Chris Pineapple Pizza. Get out of here. Don't ban him. It's a joke. Oh, man. No, Jesus is good because, again, he is the only one that provides the avenue of not only escape. Yeah, that's right. I'm an escapist. I know there's a lot of people. Oh, you believe in the rapture. You're an escapist. You're darn right. I'm an escapist. Absolutely. I'm going to escape all this. If you want to stick behind, you're more than welcome to do so, but I don't want to. I'm going to escape out of this. But he's the only one that provides hope of escaping all of this. He's the only one that provides the hope of encouragement with this stuff. Again, there's so many people out there that would see this and become absolutely depressed because they're going, oh man, the world's falling apart. What am I going to do? But for us crazy Jesus freaks, we can sit here and we can go through everything that we just went through tonight and come out with a smile on the end going, almost home. Now, we don't know when. Again, you guys know me. I'm not one of those people that sits there and goes, Jesus is coming soon, because when you do that, you can present a lot of people with false hope. Jesus is coming, and soon is a relative term. We don't know. It could be tomorrow, or it could be several years from now. We don't know. But either way, we should still be excited and encouraged, hopeful, because we are one step closer. Well, in this case, I think a giant step closer to going home and being in the presence with Jesus. If you're one of those people that doesn't have that, and you're sitting here absolutely depressed by everything that we just went through, you need to give your life to Jesus, because he will give you all of that and more that we just went over. And it's through his gospel, which is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner. The act of repentance, metanoia. Changing from self to Christ, turning from self to Christ. It's one of those things where everything in the world, all religions of the world tell you it's you can do it, you're enough. And Christ is saying, you're not, but I am. And so when we repent, it allows us to have true belief in Jesus Christ as our Savior. Because how can we believe in him as our Savior if we don't understand why? And so it's through repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God, that he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only, and he lived the perfect, sinless life. The spotless lamb, the only one to do so, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world upon his shoulders to the cross, to take our place, to be crucified and die. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, he defeated death and rose again on the third day. For all who believe in him shall not perish, but live forever in his presence and in his glory. Again, the glory is his. He did it. He did it. Which means he gets the glory. And C, as we call upon the Lord, when we receive salvation, we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit, and we receive a supernatural gift of prayer that allows us direct access to our Heavenly Father at any moment of any day, so much so that he even says in his own word that he desires to hear from us nonstop, to never cease praying. In case you guys haven't figured it out, never ceasing is nonstop. Profound, I know. But he desires to hear from us all day long. What a love. What a love that is. We can come to him and say, God, thank you for sending your son, Jesus Christ, to be the perfect ultimate sacrifice, willingly giving your son so that I may have life. Thank you, Lord, for the ultimate gift. And we ask God, please help us to navigate these crazy times right now. It's a hard world. It's getting worse by the day. But we are not discouraged. We are not worried. We're not panicking. For those who do believe in you that are experiencing some of that, help us to remember that you are still in control and that you are fully watching over us at all times to help restore our confidence in you so that we can go out there and continue to share the gospel of your son, Jesus Christ. And we ask, Lord Jesus, please come soon. In your holy name that we pray. Amen. What was that? Okay. Amen. All right. Do we have any questions? Let's see here. Let's see. Kathy Peth question. I've always heard that in the days of Noah that they were eating and drinking, that life would be more like normal when we go up, and yet here we are. What are your thoughts? Well, for us, when we see what's going on, it doesn't necessarily look normal, but for the rest of the world right now, it's still normal for them. Remember, normal is something that can change and evolve over time, which it obviously has. So normal 10 years ago is not normal today, but it's still technically normal because the rest of the world is operating as so. Everybody's getting up, going to work, taking the kids to school, planning vacations, going out to the park, going out to the bar, going out to this, doing that, going to church on Sundays. You know, everybody's still acting as life is normal, even though our perspective as watchmen, we see that things are very much not normal. So it's one of those things where, relatively speaking, life is still normal right now. What that's in reference to has to do with the fact that when we're out of here, things are going to change drastically. Normal will be gone at that point. People will not be eating and drinking. The financial system's going to crash. There's going to be death all over the place. Systems are going to start falling apart. Housing market's going to close. Your job's going to be lost. Everything is going to change. That is what that's in reference to. So as of right now, everything is normal. When we're gone, when we exit stage up, things will no longer be normal. And that's if you hold to the correct context of what that is speaking to, which has to do with the time before the day of the Lord. Most of the people will teach that Matthew 24 is only for the Jews, which again, that is incorrect teaching, even though they themselves who teach that Matthew 24 is only for the Jews will continue to take verses out of it and apply it to the church today, which again, that goes against the very same thing that they're teaching. People believe that, like the days of Noah, people be eating and drinking and giving in marriage. They believe that that's going to be happening before the second coming. And you're going to sit there and tell me that after the 70th week of Daniel, with everything that's happening, people are going to be sitting there going about life as normal? Makes no logical sense. This is specifically talking about before the day of the Lord. Rapture happens beforehand. And as of right now, life is still very normal, even though we can perceive that it is not. So that's also important to remember. So, if you want to know more about that, I dive more into it. I have a 2-part video breakdown on my channel called Why I Don't Believe in the 7-Year Tribulation. There's going to be some people who have not heard that are going to go, oh, what? And it's like, yeah, no, I believe in the 70th week of Daniel. I believe that is 7 years because the Bible says so. But the Bible does not speak of a 7-year tribulation, and I go over how Matthew 24 is taught incorrectly when people say it's just for the Jews. So go check that out if you want a little bit more in depth. It's on my channel if you want to check it out. Last question. Dude, where's my Harpots? Is that dude, where's my rapture? You just changed it to Harpazzo. Zach, have you had the chance to read Counterfeit Kingdom by Holly Pivot and Douglas Gevitt? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. They speak your language when it comes to the NAR. No. I'll be honest, I don't read other people's books. I just don't. That's kind of weird coming from me because I wrote one. I don't read other people's books. I'm also not necessarily, I think some of the stuff that she says is good, but I'm not necessarily a fan of Holly Pivot because I know some of the people that she hangs out with, and I'm good. But no, I have not read the book. I just don't, it's like people send me podcasts and stuff. Have you seen this? Have you watched this? I don't watch other people's podcasts either. I'm somebody I go my own way. Everything I do is I read it on my own. I don't watch stuff. I don't read other people's books. It's just me. It's just me. Take it or leave it. But it's served me well so far. But anyways, no, haven't read it. Anyways. All right, guys. That is all that we got for tonight. Thank you for joining me. Usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it. Again, YouTube is hammering my channel to death right now. It is not good. And so liking, sharing, and subscribing will help reach those people that need Jesus. And that's why we do this. That's the whole point. Again, I don't care about the numbers, but I do want to be able to reach those who are looking for Christ. So please like, share, subscribe if possible. Also follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble, Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. I throw up on Telegram as well. So feel free to follow along on there. If not, no worries. You'll just make me cry myself to sleep at night. But make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening in the Wretched Watchmen world of things. You'll find the latest podcasts and live streams. You'll find the announcement page, the free book to download. Weird, I know. Anyways, go check it out though. Good stuff. Gives you a different perspective on things. And then just added on there, of course, is the prayer bears prayer request message box on there as well. Again, prayer bears is an opportunity for us to be praying for each other. So again, get them in. I'll be posting the first list on Monday. I'll be getting these out on Monday. And then, yeah, it gives us an opportunity to pray for each other with all the things going on. We need prayer more than ever right now, but yeah, you'll find that on there as well. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel and what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. And this channel is free. Everything is free. The whole thing is free. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. And we're able to do that, and we're able to continue to do what we do is because of your guys' donations. So if you guys want to help keep this going and help push things forward and get the gospel and the truth out to as many people as we can, those links are below. Thank you guys for those who support financially, support with prayer, support with encouragement. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all of you guys more than you know. I don't thank you enough. But yeah, thank you for that. So, all right, y'all. That's all we got. Thank you guys for joining me today, tonight, whatever. Tomorrow is Sunday, so make sure you get your wretched, heathenic, misfit bootay to church. Whether online, in person, doesn't matter as long as it's a Bible-believing, Christ-following church. Make sure that they're getting the basic principles right. And yeah, Lord does not come back by Tuesday. I should see you guys then. So peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.